Okay, let me just say one more thing about schemas. If you think about something like how do you add fractions with like denominators, how do you add fractions with unlike denominators, that's a schema. And if you think about this, is not a course in learning, so I don't want to go into it a great deal. But if you think about it, that's really a collection of propositions, images, orders of how to do things, etc., etc. And you have schemas, and the schemas interrelate another with the information processing people often call a web or a network, right? And you can go and often we make associations. Okay, let me say a word, Pluto. Okay, who thought of the dog? Who thought of the planet? Ooh, what an educated class. Now we'll see if you're really educated class. Who thought of the Greek god? The Roman god, Pluto. It's Poseidon in Greek. Okay, now if I say Pluto the dog, up comes Mickey Mouse, mouse, up comes cat. These things are all related to each other in these networks. If I say Pluto the planet, you think, oh, planets, solar systems, on Earth, it goes on and on. They're all related and webbed and linked together. And to the extent that you can get these links tighter and make connections, that's the extent to which you'll be able to remember more, do things better, etc., etc. And of course, if I say to you, oh, they just found another planet, they just found another planet. If you don't know what a planet is, it doesn't help. Okay? It doesn't help. I'll give you an example. Sam, you know how to say 3 in Arabic? No, right? Okay, I'm going to teach you how to say 3 in Arabic. I'm not going to tell them. Okay, watch this. Nobody's going to know what I'm talking about, but what the heck, it's Astros Day. In Semitic languages, the shin and the taf often are interchangeable. What's a t in one language is a shin in another language. So, how do you say 3 in Hebrew? Shalosh. Or shlosha, right, for the masculine? Shlosha. So how do you think you say it in Arabic? Switch the shin and the taf? Shlosa. Very close. Tlata, or tlat, or tlata, right? So he knew to do it. Most of you didn't know what the heck we were talking about, right? But he had a schema for Hebrew. And I told him then in Semitic languages, and I told him in Arabic, just give it a switch. Most of you still don't know what the heck I'm talking about, right? That's it. So once you, and what they're going to tell you is, if things can be meaningful and put into a meaningful schema, so they're going to tell you, I have 2 kids who cannot read. Here are my 2 kids. They're illiterate. Okay, here they are. 1, 2. Don't panic. They're only 6 years old, for God's sake. Just take it easy. 5 and a half. Here are my kids. Wave to the camera. That's the illiterate fan club. No, there's a camera.
Which one are you looking at?
I don't know. Oh, is there a camera here? Oh, yeah, wave to that camera. I didn't know we had one there. There we go. Okay, now, I'm going to tell both of them I'm going to teach you how to read. So, by the way, this is the thing on how to remember things. I never remember her name's name.
Colleen.
Colleen? Okay, Colleen's parents have read to her. Colleen's parents have read to her. She's asked questions. Somebody said, oh, I'll look it up in the dictionary. She sees people reading newspapers. Oh, I don't know what that answer is. I'll read it in the book, etc., etc. And Oscar, right? How do you like that? I remembered. Oscar has never seen a book. No one's ever read to him. He doesn't know what I'm talking about. So when I say to Colleen, I'm going to teach you to read, she has a schema to put it into. She can say, oh, he's going to teach me how to play this game. Say it to Oscar. He's going to say, that's not what I'm talking about. Can't relate it. Just like when I say the shin and the taf switch in Semitic languages, he has a schema to relate it to. The rest of you don't know what the heck I'm talking about. Okay, I mean, maybe with one exception. Okay, a person who knows some Arabic. Those of us who know Semitic languages, oh, we have a schema to relate it to. Okay? So those are the kinds of things that they say is meaningful. So you have to be sure when you teach kids stuff, they'll say, that it's in a meaningful context. And the more meaningful the context, and the more interrelated the context, the better off you are. If I say Pluto's a planet, if you don't know what a planet is, it doesn't help. Okay? It doesn't help. You have to go back and you have to get a meaningful context. When I said I have, I don't know, a floopadoop, whatever I call that animal, and you could explain things about it, new things about it, right? Then there was a context. You could put it into a meaningful schema that you had. Now, there's one more thing we have to talk about here, procedural knowledge, before we get how to remember stuff. Let's go to the PowerPoint. Procedural knowledge. And procedural knowledge is how to perform things and how to do things. I gave you examples of automaticity procedural knowledge. Procedural knowledge is implementing knowledge via reacting to conditions. Knowing what to do when adding fractions. Okay? The condition says here, you need to add these fractions, and you call up a procedure. See, you see how procedure is different from what's a mammal or what's a planet? You get a common denominator, or you don't have a common denominator. It's a strategy for action, like stopping your car or tying your shoes. And once again, the more automatic these procedures are, provided it's a proper automatic, the better off you are. So these are the cool kinds of knowledge. Stuff you know and stuff you know how to do. That's declarative and procedure and procedural knowledge, okay? Now, this theory also talks about cognitive processes. Once again, the cognitive processes they talk about are, you have to focus on a stimulus. That's what you have to do. Attention. So this theory is very interested in attention. Okay? You have to find meaning in stimuli. Who can read or write a language that doesn't use the English alphabet? Go ahead. Push it down?
Urdu.
Okay. What is the Arabic alphabet? Starts to write that stuff, doesn't mean anything. Because it doesn't mean anything to you. And clearly, if you're going to start to learn to read Italian, right, or Polish, which uses the Latin alphabet, you're better off because there are meaning to the stimuli. You might have to say, well, it's pronounced a little differently here or there and this and that. And this stuff can be tricky. So, for instance, you take Russian and Polish, when you talk, there's a meaning in the talking because the two languages are related. They're Slavic languages. But Russian is written in the Cyrillic alphabet, right? Right? So that has less meaning than Polish is written in the Latin alphabet. And also there's confusion because when you look, anybody remember the old USSR? It said CCCP. Well, that's not what it said. It's just that the letters are different. What are those letters? Push it down, push it down. Got somebody who knows Russian. You think I'm picking on people because I know what they know. Go ahead.
C, it means SSSS. Союз Советских Социалистических.
The C's are S's.
S.
And what's the P?
P is R.
R.
Republic.
See? So not only is it written differently, it's the letters, one letter that's a sound in one language is a different sound in another language. Okay? So that can be confusing. So, but at least it's there has to be a meaning in the stimuli, and often we'll make the same mistake with the kids that we do. Tell me once more, I'll try to remember. With Colleen and Oscar. They both look like they're in the same place. They're both flat out illiterate, but they're not, because she has pre-knowledge and he doesn't, and you got to be careful about that. And you can get and talk about kids, well, we're going to go to the ocean. And some kids haven't been to the ocean, some kids don't even know what an ocean is. I never saw an ocean until I was 17.
Did you never leave New York?
I lived on the Great Lakes, right? I remember I go swimming. The first ocean I saw was the Mediterranean Sea, actually. I went to study in Israel. So I go there, oh, it looks like Lake Ontario, a big body of water. I dive into the water, open my eyes. You can do that in Lake Ontario, it's fresh water. And then all of a sudden this undertow gets me, picks me up and slams me on the bottom. Bruised my whole back. I said, I don't think this is Lake Ontario. Right? That doesn't happen in the Great Lakes. You can get storms like that, but nothing like that. You don't get tides and undertows and all that. It's a big, big lake. So you have to, right? So you have to, but at least I knew what an ocean was. There are some kids, what do they know? So you have to be careful. And I had a misconception about an ocean because it sure looked like Lake Ontario. Just look at as far as you can see and there's water. Okay. Finally, let's go back to the PowerPoint. Okay. There's rehearsal. Continually repeating information without changing it. That's another cognitive process that these people talk about. Okay. 723-9684. Ann's Pizza Shop, right? Okay, these are the ways, okay, this is what has to be done in order to encode information. You have to pay attention to it. There has to be meaning to it. If somebody shows me, right, something in Urdu, there's nothing I can do to remember it. It just doesn't mean anything to me. I don't know that alphabet. Or if somebody shows me, you know, Chinese characters, that just doesn't mean anything to me. I just don't know it. Anybody here know Chinese characters? Or anybody else sitting in this room? Maybe somebody taking the course knows Chinese, and you're okay. Okay. Finally, there's an encode. You have to form a mental representation of information and store it in long-term memory. Otherwise, it's going to be gone, because short-term memory, it disappears. And you have to be able to get it back, recalling information from long-term memory. And so the question for these people is, how do you do that? How do you get the information in, and how do you get it back? Okay? And for them, forgetting is failing to retrieve information from your memory. Okay? So it has to be meaningful to get in there, but that doesn't mean that you can do that. I used to have a notebook when I was in Israel. And whenever I heard a word I didn't know, right, I would write it down. This is when I went to study for a year after high school. Write it down, write it down. Finally, I said, what does that mean? So the guy says to me, I've told you that word 4 times. I said, no, you didn't. He said, look in your stupid notebook. Sure enough, there it is. Written 4 times, right? He said, I'm not telling you again. I didn't have to. I wrote it down a 5th time when I saw it, right? So you have to, right? So the question becomes, how do I remember things? Okay, let's keep going back here. So we have encoding, which is connecting new information what the learner already knows. That's the key. It's very difficult to remember things out of context. And if things don't mean anything to kids, they're going to be able to learn it. And that's why when you have the kid come back to me who has a great deal of difficulty doesn't really understand, adding, multiplying and dividing. You say, and you give the kid a simple algebra equation. You say, don't worry about it. Just go through step A, step B, step C, step D, don't worry about it. Right? It's very simple multiplication, division. The easy stuff that you know, don't worry about. But the kid doesn't have a grasp of it. That kid is not going to be able to do. People do that. Just don't worry. Just follow step 1, 2, 3. But the kid, it doesn't mean anything to the kid. Because the kid doesn't have the underlying processes, and we know that. You have to have the underlying knowledge. We're going to see there's 2 things. Piaget is going to say that's not enough, but certainly that's something. Okay, so let's go back to the PowerPoint. Sorry, I'm switching up and back. Maybe we just stay here. Learning occurs if these connections are meaningful, if there are associations between the new idea and others already in long-term memory. I've already beat that to death, so I'll just keep going. Okay, so in order to make these connections, we have to use strategies. Strategies. How do we remember? Okay. I think I have a connection here. No, I guess I don't. Let me try once more. No, I was just saying. Okay, and the use of good strategies aids encoding and retrieval. That, from the point of view of educators and education, is what, come back to me now. I'm going to click on this because I want to see if I change, but don't go to stay on me, is what education is about. Okay? Strategies are what education is about. Okay? Okay? So, I'm sorry, we already did the cognitive process. I didn't go back. Strategies are what it's about. And what they're going to tell you is, well, let's go back to the PowerPoint, change my mind. Good strategies help kids learn, encode, and remember, retrieve. And research indicates that successful students are good at making and using strategies, and poor learners are not good strategy users. Okay, now I'm going to make this as my profound statement. Telling students to go home and learn something is not teaching. Okay, come back to me. I can have a computer say, go home and learn page 25. I can have a tape recorder. Go home and learn page 26. Then they come in, take a test, and put it into the computer. That's not teaching. saying go home and memorize these spelling words is not teaching. Go home and feel good about yourself. Therapists? How? Or put bad thoughts out of your head. That's like saying, don't think about a banana. Right? Of course, everybody's thinking about a banana, right? Concentrate on getting the good thoughts out of your, bad thoughts out of your head. Of course, you can't concentrate on the bad thoughts. Okay? And what these people are going to tell you here is that the difference between the kid who's okay and the kid who's labeled LD and this is in many cases is the ability to use strategies and not to use strategies. Okay? That's the key here. Strategy, strategy, strategies. I'm going to spend some time on strategies. Show you what I mean. Excuse me. Spelling. This is something we want kids to memorize. Okay? Now just let me show you something. Okay? Native speakers of English only. Take a look at this. I'm going to write a word. Take a look. Wait, I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Be patient. I'm new at this machine. Am I doing anything right? One more. Okay. There's the word. Anybody know what it means? It's a word. Don't worry about it. Okay. Think in your head how to pronounce it. Who wants to give it a shot? Just what would you say? What would you say?
Sipe.
Sipe. How many people thought sipe? Damn near everybody. Okay. Who can tell me the rule in English for when, don't say it, for when a C has a S sound and when a C has a K sound? Who knows the rule? Nobody. One person. Are you an English teacher? Push it down, push it down, push it down, and fess up.
ESL teacher.
Are you an English teacher?
Well,
What do you teach?
English as a second language. Is that English?
Yes, yes, don't give me that business. She knows every crazy rule that native speakers don't ordinarily know, right? So how come you all said sipe? How come nobody said kipe? Go ahead.
Because it looked like pipe, and so I just...
So why can't it be kipe? Kipe. Pipe, kipe. I'll tell you when. Okay, pronounce this word. Let's go back here. By the way, sipe is not a real word. This is a very famous tool used by plumbers. Pronounce it for me. It's a recalcinator. How come it's not a recepcinator? Everybody thought recalcinator. By the way, I lied. It's also not a word. Before a C, before an E or an I, a C has a S sound. Otherwise, it has a K sound, except for the word facade, which is a word we borrowed from the French. Right? And some people do it like that to show. Okay?
People still say facade.
Facade, right. Come back to me. Yeah, a lot of people say facade because it's a K. It has to be a K before an A. Right? That's automaticity. You can't tell me the rule, but you know it automatically. But even if you know the rule, okay? Even if you know the rules, it's very rare, here, okay? It's very rare to say a kid spell against and it'll go like this. Right? This is how I saw when kids spell against. Right? Against! What's the matter with you? Right? It's most kids, usually, when you get kids who are poor spellers, right? Come back to me. If you say the word vacation, right, they'll put T-I-O-N at the end. Of course, they'll do the same thing for mansion. right? Even if you know the rules, you can spell almost any English word a different way and stick to the rules. So how can you do it? We give kids one strategy usually for telling the kids how to spell the word. If you can't spell the word, then sound it out. Like, I had one person say to me, she comes to me in tears. This was undergrad. I'm trying to sound out the word Valentine and I can't sound out what goes here. Well, let's try it. How would you pronounce that? Valentine. 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 Let's try this one. You got the idea? Come back to me here. You can't sound it out. That's an sound. What's called a schwa. Right? Let me see. H-O-M-E, home. D-O-M-E, dome. Capital R-O-M-E, Rome. C-O-M-E, comb. No, that's come. Comb is C-O-M-B. Huh? Of course, there's accents. R-R-O-F. Who says roof? Raise your hand if you say roof. Who says roof? You liar. You say roof, don't you? Roof? We're kicking you out of the Western New York Club. You're out of the Western New York Club. Tell me your name again. Lisa. Lisa, pronounce this word. Again. Again.
Crayon.
She's got the, how do you pronounce it? You liars. Crayon! There's no y in there.
It's crayon. It's always been crayon.
Lisa, try that one.
Balloon.
She's, how long you been away?
I'm originally from Massachusetts, so my accent probably
no wonder. Where are you originally from? Push it down. How do you say that word? Balloon. She's trying to get the in there, but you can't. Balloon. When I first wrote crayon, I wrote it like this. Crayon. That's how you pronounce it in Western New York. I knew there was something wrong with your accent there. That's not a Western New York accent.
That's like the difference between creek and crick. I say crick.
You do?
Yeah.
I used to, but I got over it. All right, crick. Right. So, that's because people laughed at me. So how can you do it? Hymn, H-Y-M-N. Huh? A hymn in church? H-Y-M-N. Him, H-I-M, right? She, S-H-E-E. If you hear the word shun at the end, it's T-I-O-N. So how come mansion's M-A-S-M-A-N-S-I-O-N? Beside, yeah. Let's try this. On the count of 3, you give me the most common sound that S makes in the English language. Push down every microphone. Push them down. Ready? Do it at home. 1, 2, 3. That's wrong. It's Z, like has and is and was and knows and goes. Now that's true. It's always at the end. But it's Z, it's there. And sometimes it's Z at the beginning. I don't think I can think of like Israel. It's not Israel. It's not Isidore. It's Isidore. So it's tough. Can't do it. So what do? Oh, we say, look it up in the dictionary. The first time a kid cursed at me, it was 5th grade. He said to me, how in the hell am I supposed to look up the goddamn word in the goddamn dictionary if I don't know how to spell it? He bowled me over, but I said, he's right. 3 curse words in 1 sentence. He was ticked. So you need strategies. I'll tell you how I told that student to do it. I said, how do you spell, here, let's go back to Valentine. I said, you know how to spell lens? She said, yeah, L-E-N-S. I said, can you imagine looking at a Valentine through a lens? See, I'm connecting it to something she already knows. Looking at a, oh, she said, oh, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now she can spell. Who wants to try it? Who has trouble spelling a word? We'll show you how to do it. Go ahead. Push it down. Here she comes.
My kids always get dessert and desert confused.
Dessert
So
and
I have a
desert.
trick for that, yeah.
What do you tell them?
I tell them you always want seconds of dessert, so there's 2 S's in it.
1 second of dessert, 2 S's. Who learned strawberry shortcake? That's the one I learned. Dessert, strawberry shortcake, 2 S's. Sometimes I heard the other way around. The desert, there's nothing there, so it's only 1 S. That's how you teach kids how to spell. Anybody got one you want to try? And of course-
Mississippi.
What?
Mississippi.
M-I-S-S-I-S-S-I-P-P-I, Mississippi, M-I-S. You don't know what I'm talking about, do you? M-I-S-S-I-S-S-I-P-P. You don't know what I'm talking about, do you? That was a song. That was a song that the English teachers put out. It was in the 40s. Go ahead. It was even before my time. You got one from Mississippi? Go ahead.
M-I, cricket letter I, humpback, I.
M-I, crooked letter I? Humpback. That's right. That's the way you do it. That's another way. Those are strategies for remembering. Who remembers kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species? How did you do it? Go ahead. Go ahead. King Philip came over from Germany safely. Who's got another one? What do you have? Sit there. He's a nice guy. You can sit next to him.
It was King Philip came over for a good steak. Is that it?
There you go.
G-S.
Who's got another one?
To learn the planets from the sun out to Pluto is my very educated mother just served us 9 pizza pies.
My very educated mother served
Just served us 9 pizza pies.
9. I learned kings play chess on folding glass stools. Go ahead.
To do the parentheses exponent thing we did, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Yeah.
Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. That tells you how to multiply with exponents, right? Operation of, yeah.
I have Prime Minister at T is for mitosis, division, Prime Minister at T, prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase.
There you go. I don't know what he's talking about, but it's advanced math. Who learned the Great Lakes? Holmes. H-O-M-E-S. If you grow up in the Lake, it was important. You know, it bothered me. Because the trouble with it's Huron, Ontario, Michigan, Erie, Superior. The problem was my teacher wanted them in order from west to east. So Holmes doesn't work that way. It's Superior, Huron, Michigan, Erie, Ontario. I don't know how to remember it. Erie and Superior, Erie and Ontario were easy in New York because those are the 2 lakes that hit New York, right? Hit western New York. Here's what these people are going to tell you. Everything that you remember, everything was remembered like this. If I say, how do you spell cat? C-A-T. I just know. That's because it's automaticity. But everything you have to remember. Everything, 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 everything. And then it becomes automatic and you forget.
Without Gutenberg, we'd still be doing that.
Right, without the printing press, right. So, most people, it seems counterintuitive. That's why I don't go with intuition. Okay, I'll give you another one. We're going to have a test on this after the midterm. Okay? Who has no idea how to say duck in Spanish? Has no idea how to say duck in Spanish? Who knows how to say duck in Spanish? Okay, how do you say it? Pato. P-A-R. P-A-T-O. Go to Pato. Okay, stop. How are you going to remember how to say duck in... Come back to me. How are you going to remember how to say duck in Spanish? What? Say it again? Push it down. Push it down.
Spell patent, add an O.
Spell patent, add an O. Okay. How are you going to connect it to a duck is the question. Okay, probably that's not a bad way to do it, by the way. You notice he's going from something he knows to something he doesn't know. How many people, pato, pretend we're not spelling, we're just saying it. Who's got a way? I see a duck cooking in a pot. People don't like that. Let me say, no, put a pot on your head. Okay. A duck with a pot on its head, right? Let's try this one. The word for elephant in Hebrew is, gotcha, peel. Peel. In Arabic it's feel, right? Peel. Okay? Later I'll tell you why it's feel in Arabic. Peel, I know. Okay, how are you going to remember it? Because if you don't remember in 2 weeks and I'm sending letters home, you're flunking the course. How are you going to remember that peel is how you say an elephant? Connect elephant to peel. Go ahead. Who's got a strategy to do it?
So you peel it.
What? Say it again?
Elephants have thick skin, so you peel it.
Thick skin, so you peel it. Anybody else? Got to remember that an elephant is a peel? Go ahead, you got one?
Yeah, if an elephant steps on you, they're going to have to peel you off the ground.
Steps in, you have to peel you off the ground. Who's got another one? Go ahead.
Well, sometimes elephants eat peanuts, so they have to peel the
Peel
peanut
the
open.
penis. There you go. Nobody saw an elephant slipping on a banana peel? Oh, this is such a nice class. Most classes, that's whatever. Half the people see that. Peel. Oh, one person. The guy's doing the camera, right? Our techie. See, they're mean people. Okay? Peel. Right. That's how. And I'm ready to bet that a lot of people are going to remember pato, a pot with a duck, and peel with the elephant. That's how you do it. So you say, so how come you don't do it to remember people's names? Right? I should, I just don't. Okay, let's go back to the PowerPoint. And so good teachers show children how to learn, how to become effective strategy makers. Okay? And this actually this has 2 steps. Come back to me if you can. Number 1, you show them how to make strategies. But ultimately, you show them strategies yourself. Okay? And you have to be clear they understand. Who remembers doing this? I before E, except after C, or when sounded as A in neighbor and way, and you had no idea what it meant. It was just blah, 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 right? That's right. I remember I'm spelling neighbor, N-I-E. The teacher tells me, I before, this is 8th or 9th grade. I learned this in the 3rd grade. She said, I before, she said, or when sounded as A in neighbor or way, it hit me what it meant. Oh, thank you. Received. I still get letters C-I-E for receive. No, except after C. After a C, it's E-I, so receive has to be E-I. You can tell that the 3rd graders until they can memorize it, right? You can burn it on their forehead and they know it all. But until they have the cognition to understand what it means, that's the problem. And information processing people know that certain strategies are wonderful for 16-year-olds. I'm going to show you another one. I will now, and then we'll go to the end. But ultimately, the purpose is to have the kids become their own strategy makers. I will show you what is not a strategy. Here's my kid. I'll pick on Oscar again, okay? He can't multiply. Got me here? These are my flashcards. Multiply this. That's the end of that course. Multiply this. Multiply this. Multiply this. Multiply this. Multiply this. So you don't have it right? Good. You got half of them right? I'm on top of the microphone. Ready? Let's do it again. Multiply this. Multiply this. Multiply this. Or you got half right again this time, but you missed 20. You missed 4 that you missed before. You got 4 you missed. Let's do it again. Multiply this. Multiply this. Multiply this. Until the kid wants to kill you. That's not a strategy. Wait, I'm going to bend down. I'm going to get Oscar's paraphernalia. I'll just throw it out for you, okay, Oscar? No, here's a website. That's nice. Okay, ready? I didn't really look at it. I will tell you now that, and except with one kid who had a genetic condition, I have never failed to teach a teenager how to multiply. Kids who have had the flashcards 100 years. One girl, her mother calls me. She calls the clinic where I work was mostly shrinks, right? Shrinks. I said they worry about shrinking, I worry about thinking. Mostly therapists, excuse me. But the mother called about some question about, come back to me, about her flashcards. The kids flash, oh, education, hook her up to Lieberman's, right? Get to clinic. Next thing she says, I'm having a fight with my daughter. She's in 7th or 8th grade. About whether to take the multiplication table flashcards on vacation or not. So thinking practice the kid. The kid is furious. She doesn't want to do it. And the mother wants to take them. I said to her, ma'am, how long has she had these flashcards? Since 4th grade. So it was 3 years. Since 4th grade. So you've been doing them constantly for 3 years? She said, yeah. I said, how many more years are you going to have to do it before you realize the flashcards don't work? I heard this stunned silence. It was like this pregnant pause. Then she says, what should I do with the flashcards? I said, you have a barbecue? In the yard? She said, yeah. I said, take them out there and let her burn them. I said, you serious? I said, what are they good for? She called me back the next day. She said, I don't know if you can teach my kid to multiply, but it's the happiest I've seen her in 3 years. Right? Then I taught her how to multiply. Let me show you a strategy for multiplying. Okay, let's go here. Okay, almost all adolescents, by the way, this does not work well with 3rd and 4th graders because of cognition. Almost all adolescents know the 1s, the 2s, and the 5s. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. 5 times 6 is 30, right? They can do that. They usually do it under here. 5, 30. Okay, now I tell them, the 3s drive them crazy. I just add the 1s and the 2s. Now they understand the lie. They understand the lie. These are the kids who, if you say 7 times 7, they'll go 7 plus 7 plus 7 plus 7 plus 7. They know what it means. So I tell them here, let's go to the overhead here. I tell them, look, you take 7 times 3, go 7 times 2. 7 times 1 is 7 times 3, right? 14, 7, add 14 plus 7. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, they count on a very 21. Eventually it goes to 7 times 2 is 14. And eventually they say 7 times 1 is 7. They know that this is, a couple steps in between, right? I say the 4s, this is the 3s. I say for the 4s, double them. Double the 2s. So 8 times 4, 8 times 2 is 16. 8 times 2 is 16. 16 plus 16 is 32. Right? Get it? That's what I show them. Eventually they go 16. They put this 16 on here. Eventually they go 8 times 2 is 16, and another 16 is 32. Right? They get right to it. Okay? Let's go to the next one. Okay, now the 5s they know, the 6s. This is the one that drives most kids crazy. They can't get the 6s. How do you do the 6s? You tell me, given what I just did. How are you going to do the 6s?
The 2s 3 times.
2s 3 times? That's...
Or the 4s plus the 2s.
Work from what they know. Go ahead. Push it down, push it down, push it down.
I just tell them it's like adding. So if you take 6 times 1, you know that's 6. And it's like adding 6 more, and then you put it...
Right, push it down. You got to keep it down. Got to keep it down. I know how to shut him up, tie his hands, right?
It's like, so it's like 6 times 1 is 6, and then you go 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And so 6 times 2 is 12, and then you add 6 more, and it's like 6 times 3 is 18.
That's just so the kid is going 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6 to get 36, drive him crazy. Think about it. You got to go from what the kid knows. There's nothing to it. You see this? So many teachers in here. Yeah, go ahead.
1s plus 5.
The 5s and the 1s, add them up. All of a sudden, you go 6 times 6 drives them nuts. Or 6 times 8. I go 5 times 8. 5 times 8 is 40. Right? And 1 times 8 is 8, 48. There's nothing to them. Take the 5s and 1s and add them up. All of a sudden, the most difficult one becomes impossible. Now, I'm going to ask a question. I want you to tell me the truth. And at home, think to yourself. How many people, come back to me for a second, how many people are aware of the fact that the 2 digits, that if you have a 9's times table, that the 2 digits in the answer always add up to 9? Who was not aware of that? Like 6 times 9 is 54, 5 and 4 is 9. Who was aware of that? Who was not? If you're not, you're a victim of malpractice, educational malpractice. Who knows this trick? Okay, come and show us. Who does not know this trick with the fingers? You know it? Who doesn't know it? Watch this. Okay, face that way so people can see. Okay, ready? 9 times 4. Oh, well, it's count it so we can see it. 1. Go ahead. 1.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Put
the next one down. 45.
No, 9 times 4. You put the fourth one down. 9 times 4 is 36. 9 times 7. Go ahead. Count to.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
And what do you get?
63. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
6.
1, 2, 3.
Whatever is on this side of the bent finger is the tens place, or this is the threes place. You see it? Of course, you have to be careful about 9 times 3. Go ahead.
1, 2, 3.
Oh, they bend down that finger. Oh, see? 27. You got it? You see it? You got it? Nothing to it. Here, I'll show you another one on paper. Older kids often don't like that because they want to see using paper. So I tell them this. Here, let's go to the tablet. 9 times 6, because you use a 6. Let's do 9 times 7. 9 times 7. You take 1. Oops, it shows I lived overseas for a while. 9 times 7. Oh, let's try again. 9 times 7. You cover the 9. What's 1 less than 7? 6. 6 and how much makes 9? That way they look like they're right. 9 times 8. What's 1 less than 8? 7 how much makes 9? And this way they're not cutting on their fingers. You see what I'm saying? You have to be careful here because there's a tendency to put down the 7 here instead of 1 less. But put down the 8 here instead of 1 less. It doesn't take long. Okay, come back to me. Now we have, and sometimes a kid will get 9 times 6 next. Shall I use the 9 system? Don't say trick. I don't want to know trick. I really want to know. Shall I use the 9 strategy or the 6 strategy? Right? 5 times 9 is 45. And one more 9 is 54. Or I tell them use the 9. It's easier. Now we've got everything covered except 7 times 7, 7 times 8, and 8 times 8. We've got all the rest covered. All right, so let's go over here. Okay, 8 times 7 is easy. 5, 6, 7, 8. Right? Interestingly enough, the older the kid, the less they like this. Because this is their logic, is thinking, is a strategy. This I just have to remember. It's just a matter of, right? Now, 7 times 7, I tell them, this usually works, do 7 times 5 and 7 times 2. 5 times 7 is 35, 2 times 7 is 5, 10, 15, 20, here, 25, 30, 14, add that 2, and you get 49. Right? Okay, come back to me. 8 times 8, I don't know what to do, tell you. One kid did 9 times 8 and took off an 8. I said, oh, try that with 7 other kids. Forget it, right? Sometimes I tell them do. One kid actually did 5 times 8, 2 times 8, and 1 times 8. That also was unique. You know what I usually do? I just have them write 8 times 8 in their palm, 8 times 64, and look at it. I say, don't look at it more than a few times a day. Okay, but look at it. That's the only one I really don't have a great thing for. Okay? That's teaching. That's showing kids strategies. Eventually, kids have to be strategy makers. Okay? I'll tell you a good teacher I had. Remember this one? Come to the overhead again. You go 6, 9, 3, 1, 8, 2, 7. Add that up. Okay, and they say, well, let's make tens. 9 and 1 is 10, 8 and 2 is 10, 7 and 3 is 10. That's 1, 2, 3 tens. That's 30 and 6. Remember that? Okay? That's a good strategy. I remember I did to this teacher, I said, when I did this, I said, of course it wasn't in this order, I said I made 1 9, 2 9s, 3 9s, 4 9s. 9 times 4 is 36. Okay, I knew where multiplication to. Come back to me. She said to me, do it your way. She didn't care. As long as I had a strategy, that's what you have to get to, kids who are strategy makers. That was a good teacher. Kids who are strategy makers. Show them strategies and have them make their own strategies. And I'll tell you something, strategies are very personal. One time a kid said, how do you spell together? He says, oh, I know how to do that. To get her. When you go to get her, we're together. I didn't like it. I didn't say why. I didn't say, don't use that, I don't like it. I didn't know why. Then I remembered, I actually did a lot of introspecting, if you will, about strategies. And I finally came to the conclusion, I remembered, spelling strategies. I always divide words into syllables. I even know why. Because if you have a double one, that's actually what I use for desert and dessert. It's des-zert. Whether it's desert, right? If you have a double letter, it's always cuts at the thing, right? So tissue is tissue, right? In fact, in England they still say tissue. No accounting for what goes on overseas, right? We speak the right English, right? So that, and I remember, and after that, I always divided my words by syllables. And I remember one, I still remembered one. You know the word incandescent? Who's the science teacher? Yeah, he's the only one. The incandescent lights, you have fluorescent lights, the other ones are incandescent lights. Remember I told myself, in-can-des centipeni. All of a sudden became an easy word. And centipeni was easy for me because in those days when you had fuses before circuit breakers, when the fuse blew out, you put a penny in back of it and screwed the fuse back in to get it to work again. Of course, you could burn down your house that way. The fuse blew for a reason, right? Because you got too much electricity. You put a penny in back, and it just keeps going. But, okay, but it was easy, okay? That's strategy making, showing kids how to make strategies. I always do it by syllables. But you don't have to. If the kid has to get her, do that. That was the kid who sang spell against Eugene. How many people remembering you finally learn how to spell the word conscience when people told you conscience? Remember that? That's a strategy. Then I'm going to tell you one more thing. We're going to go on. I had a guy from Panama. Okay? He came from Panama when he was 12. I was working with him. He was in his early 20s by now. And he went to an American school, a private school. His father had some money. That's why I was in the clinic too. He spoke English, it's unusual after age 12, almost without an accent. I worked with him a lot, and sometimes I would meet him late at night, and if he was tired, you could hear a little bit of a Spanish inflection, but very rare. He spoke English without an accent. To say that he was a terrible speller is like saying the Pacific Ocean is damp. Like saying Mount Everest is a little bump in the ground. It was unbelievable. Money, M-E-N-Y-Y-E. What the hell are you doing? He used to leave notes for his therapist. The therapist would bring him to me. After working with him, I worked with him a couple of years, I finally figured, I said, what does this say? Can't read it. And I was like a translator from a foreign language. His spoken English was perfect. No accent, and he made no grammar mistakes. I mean, it was an American accent. But his spelling was... Finally, I said to him, listen, here's what I want you to do. I want you to take every word and pronounce it as though it's a Spanish word and spell the Spanish word. And all I want you to do is remember that as an H at the beginning, you have to say the H. The H in Spanish is not pronounced. It's hacienda. Okay, not hacienda. So if you see the word home, go home. That's right, home. He would spell home H-U-M-M-E. Nobody knew what the heck it was. Right? He had there was some which trouble. I just spelled L-A-G-H-T. I would make him do it. Licht. I would make him do it. You would think it's counterintuitive to think that this is a good way to do things. Now he has to remember how to pronounce every English word in Spanish. I want you to know that the psychiatrist who ran that clinic, he was an associate of that clinic. And when that clinic closed, he took me in with him because they thought I was a genius. He went in 3 weeks from writing this gibberish to being a person who could spell English making mistakes. He made some mistakes, made mistakes. All of a sudden he got it. There was a strategy. I couldn't believe it myself. He left a note once. I said, did he write this? Right? I couldn't believe it. He just pronounced the words as though they were Spanish words. Spanish is a very phonetic language. He had troubles with, in some Spanish accents, the B and the V are B. They're about the same. Right? I think in Panama it was. So he had troubles with that sometimes. And I tried to get him to say V when you see a V and B when you say V, but couldn't do it because that screwed up the strategy. So I had to give other things to remember. Right? Okay. Does anybody remember how you remembered which pair was P-E-A-R and which pair was P-A-I-R? So you don't remember, but you did it. I had one kid tell me he stuck a pear in his ear. E-A-R is ear, right? One kid had a pair of shoes hanging in the air. These were younger kids, and they could tell me how they remembered. They don't remember anymore. This was years ago. It becomes automatic. Okay? So that's the key. And by the way, that's the key to administrating. That's the key to therapy, to give people, control your class. Oh, gee, thanks a lot. It's like I want them to run wild. Thanks for telling me that. And much of therapy is trying to hit on the right strategy to turn people around. Go home and think positive thoughts. Well, that doesn't work. I started to think a positive thought reminded me of I started to think positive thoughts about how good I was, how good I am at this, and it reminded me how my brother is down in the dumps because he's no good at this. Oh, that didn't work, right? Think to do this, do that, try this, try that. That's what much of therapy is, trying to get strategies for this stuff. So as you can see, even though intellectually this theory bugs me because it doesn't take emotions into account, and it treats people like little machines without emotions, and that's clear. A computer is an electronic intelligence. We're an electrochemical intelligence. If I give a computer 800 addition problems to do, it gets them all right. If I give you 8 addition problems to do, about the 50th one, you're starting to make a lot of mistakes. I want to say one other thing. Repetition, practice, is not the world's best strategy. I'm going to show you something. Do it. At home, do it. Take a piece of paper, take a pen, a pencil, put your finger down, and draw a circle around your finger. Here, I'll do it. I can't do this people's paper. Here, like this. Got to go to the overhead thing? Right? Do this. Draw a little circle around your finger like this. Okay? Okay? Now, come back to me. Take the hand that you are not. If you're righty, take your left hand and put it behind you. If you're lefty, take your right hand. And so you can't see it. Right? Look at the circle and try to get your finger in the middle of the circle. You can't look from here, though. You can't follow your hand down. Go ahead, keep doing it. By the way, this has nothing to do with the class. Somebody bet me $500 I couldn't get you all make fools out of yourself twice. Keep doing it over and over and over and over. You're cheating. I want the back of your ear so you can't follow it down with your eye. You can look at the circle. Look at the circle. Look at the circle, but don't look at your finger. Just go for it. Like that. See it?
You're ambidextrous.
Use either one. Doesn't matter. Do you notice that you got better and better, then you started to get worse and worse? That's called over-practice. I'm in the Army. Okay! You have to take the submachine gun apart, put it back together. When everybody can do it, we'll go to eat. In 10 seconds, right? Because speed is important when somebody's shooting at you, right? Okay? You want to be able to get that gun apart and back together really quickly if it's jammed, right? It's very important. So, we go. Everybody got it right except 2 guys. I bet I was one of them. Again! Again! On different 2 guys. Again. Then it's 5 guys. And when it got to 20 guys, The sergeant got disgusted. He said, he was hungry too. The hell with it, we're going to eat, right? It's called over-practice. The best way to get a kid to misspell a word is say, write the word right 27 times. It's a guarantee. If there's a typing mistake that you make all the time, anybody type HT instead of THE all the time? What's a spelling mistake you make, a typing mistake you make all the time? If you have one, practice it over and over and over. Guthrie taught us this. He went to the typing teacher and told her, make them type HTE, 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 HTE. You get what's called a fatigue effect. Before you know it, they're writing, the dog jumped over the brown car. The dog jumped over the brown car on the way across the street. All the thes were spelled correctly. It's a fatigue effect. That's why I tell them, look at the 8 times 6, but don't do 50 times. A couple times a day. Now we got to cover one more thing. That's metacognition. We already covered information stores and cognitive processes, so I didn't go back for that. That's metacognition. Knowledge about and control of your cognitive processes. This for them is the ultimate key. This is the learner's knowledge about his or her own cognitive processes. This begins with being aware how to make strategies, who you are and what you are. This is the ability to self-regulate and to control these processes. This is big stuff, and this is actually one of the big things information processing has added to the classical stuff about memory. Okay? Effective learners are aware of what works for them. Engage in strategies that help them learn. Monitor their own learning. Now this is classic do what the teacher wants stuff. But if there's something you have to learn, even if you don't want to learn it, like how to pass the test in this course, they self-regulate. I'm going to say a few things that are going to get people upset, I hope. Come back to me, and then we'll go back to this. Any book that's a study guide, that's a how-to book, how to study, and shows you how to study, stinks. It stinks. At least for some people, it stinks. We all know this. When you go to study, put your books in front of you, put the thing at an angle. If you have 3 sharpened pencils and 2 pens, remember this one? If you're right-handed, have a light of shining over your right ear, or put it here. If you're left-handed, over here, over your left shoulder, or put it here. Do the first topic and the second, right? Please. All right, let's take a vote. How many people here, you have 3 things to do? Let's say 3 things to study when you're in high school. Y'all got college degrees, so y'all did okay. How many would do the first thing, then the second thing, then the third thing? Or how many would do part of the first thing, they couldn't say anymore, then to the second thing, then back to the first thing, then to the third thing, back to the second thing, to all 3. Who did it the first way? Who did it the second way? About half and half, a little more the second way, right? That's typical. To tell me, first do this, then do this, then do this. Okay? How many people here, sitting at your desk and being upright in your chair was torture? You had to go loll on your bed. What was it torture for? Right. How about more than half? And how many people needed to sit at a desk and do it, right? How many people here turn on a soft radio, it helped you? And how many people here turn on a soft radio, it was such a distraction you could scream? Right? About half and half again. You see what I'm saying? So what you have here, there's no one best way to study. You have to know yourself. You have to know yourself. Go ahead.
Is it a bad thing if you just, the way I study is, what class am I doing the best in, then I say that one for last? Because I figure if I don't study for that one, then if I fail it, then, you know, it's not going to impact as bad
Works
as it
for
is the
you.
other ones.
You save the hardest thing for last or the easiest?
The easiest.
The easiest. Some people say, I can't study because I know this hard thing is waiting for me. Let me do the hard thing first. How many people are like that? And how many people say, let me do an easy thing first to build my confidence? Again, about half and half. There's no bad thing if it works for you. You have to know yourself. You have to get the kids to know themselves. We become so obsessed with the strategies that the strategy becomes more important than the actual learning. Do it this way, do it that way, do it this way. You know this finger counting trick for the 9s? It never fails, except when it does. I had one little girl, she was from Kincaid. Now, she was only in the 3rd and 4th grade, so I showed her that trick, she started to cry. I said, don't worry about it. So I showed her the, 9 times 7, 6. I figured this is way beyond this kid. She said, oh, now I get it. 4th grade, no sweat. It depends on who you are. And the key is to help kids become strategy makers. And any book that tells you do it this way, do it that way, do it the other way is no good. My daughter, who was working on her 3rd degree, right, she's got a bachelor's degree, a master's degree. By the time you see this tape, she'll have a nursing degree, right? This semester she's finishing, right? The way to study is to strew your stuff everywhere, all over the place, and sit on the bed slumped over till you can't stand it anymore. Then you get on the floor slumped over. And from the point of view who can study and likes to study and really study, she was the best of the 4 kids. One day I said to her, you want a desk? We can put a desk in here. We'll find room in your room. We'll get it. She looks at the room. She says, no, I don't think so. It's good this way. All over the place, right? And what's she doing? You couldn't tell, right? Interesting enough, when she became a teacher, she taught in a community college for a while. She was tolerant. She was tolerant. If you want to do it this way, do it this way, do it that. And she told people, of course it was college, so it just came in, but she said to them, she knew. And my oldest son, just the opposite. Everything lined up, get to this, don't touch my stuff. They both graduated from college, I guess it's okay, right? So that's very important, and that's what's called self-regulating. You have to know first of all, you have to know they have to make strategies. Let's go back to the PowerPoint. That is self-regulating. You have to know to make strategies. You have to know what works for you and what doesn't. The minute you know that, you become a more effective strategy maker. Okay, whoops. Let me go back here. Okay, and that's the key. That is the key to what's going on here. That's the key to learning, they said. But there are problems with this series, you might imagine. The first problem is emotions are not addressed. Computers don't get upset. If I say to a computer, will you please finally get this right? I can't stand it. The computer doesn't give a damn. Hit the right key, it's okay. If I say that to a kid, it's not good. How many people have cursed out their computers? What, are you nuts? They're machines. How many people have called their computers stupid? Everybody. How many people have told your computers, I hate you? All the hands are up, right? Well, do that to a kid and say, will you please get this right, stupid? You've got troubles. You don't do that to kids. And you know it's the computer's fault. I could not get onto the internet yesterday to save my life. Finally, I just turned the thing off and turned it on again. When I turned it off, the internet popped up. Too late, it was going on. You stupid thing! And my computer takes 3 years to boot up because I have stuff on it. I was so annoyed. The computer does stuff, all of a sudden, it freezes for nothing. When a kid freezes, you say, what's the matter with you? You don't do that, right? Okay, the second problem, okay, whoops, I don't know what this is here, but I'm not going to monkey with it. This theory can't explain why strategies are different across ages. Development is not addressed. I have tried that multiplication tricks with younger kids when they're first learning how to multiply. Almost never fails with an adolescent, with younger kids. Even though they'll tell you, yeah, 6 times 6 is 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6, the fluidity of saying, oh, 5s and the 1s, add them up, they don't quite get it. It doesn't hit them right. And it's the same thing while learning theorists, it's the same problem. Can't tell you why a smiley face works great for 6-year-olds, and 16-year-olds go, give me a car, right? Or something like that. They don't care. Okay? And they say, well, just, right? And okay, and the problem is can we answer the questions about the nature of people? The answer really is not really. Because, come back to me for a second, people are being treated like machines. We don't know what motivates people. We don't have an answer to that. So I'm going to play with this, but don't go on there. Okay? We don't have an answer to what motivates people. We don't have an answer to what's the nature of people's, of what's going on. So almost the very idea, what is the nature of a human being? A human being's a machine. You've got to find the right strategies. And finally, another problem that I admit to you I don't have the guts to put on television. There's the whole question of really asking, is that what education is about? Learning stuff to make kids inferior calculators. We're never going to be able to remember, or inferior computers, I'll put it that way. We're never going to be able to remember stuff the way computers can remember them. And some of the stuff we do kills me. Like memorizing the periodic chart of the elements. I would venture to say that there isn't a working chemist who knows them. And certainly, most times you do it 1, 2, 3, 4. If they know them, they don't do it that way. They go down the columns trying to figure out, the valence stuff, even though chemists don't think that way anymore, from what I've been told. Don't quote me on it. I knew a middle school teacher. The parents were furious that she let the kids use calculators. She said, look, you have to make up your mind. I can teach them 2 math concepts and then let them be mini calculators, or I can teach them 5 math concepts and let them use the calculators to calculate. But even deeper than that is the question, is knowing memorizing? Is that all it is? Is that what intelligence is, memorizing? Or is it able to synthesize? Now, they'll talk about that stuff. Well, you can synthesize, you put together 2 different schemes. But in the end, is that really what knowledge is, memorizing? And you can see, once again, we're in the same position that we were. We're in the same position that we were with all the other learning theories, which is people are a reflection of what they have learned from their environment. Yes, the structures are innate. The memories are innate. Memory stores a middle syndrome in the long term. But people are a reflection. And thinking boils down to memorizing. Okay? Questions like, are people active or passive? We don't really know. It would seem passive because they're just taking it from the environment. On the other hand, you have to have active processes to put into strategies. It would seem active. There's no emotions at all in this. So it becomes a difficult kind of a problem, because in the end, what the educator is really trying to achieve is to get the kids to input information and then to input it, encode it, and retrieve it. And it becomes like treating kids like little computers. And this, as I said, there are really no emotions involved here at all. We do have some answers, though, to what explains lack of achievement. They're going to tell you if a kid can't achieve, it's due to poor strategy making and poor self-regulation. And that self-regulation, knowing yourself, knowing who you are, we're going to see that in a lot of other theories. Okay? Kids just don't have strategies, and the focus of education is not on teaching them strategies, and it's not teaching them self-regulation, and often it's quite the opposite, right? Usually schools try to turn kids, this is the one way to be. Now I'm going to use a nasty word on television, but I'm going to tell you about driving my kid home from the airport. Did I tell you that? Driving him to college. I'm driving him to college. This was the kid who, the desk has to be like this. He cooperated in school. The teachers liked him. And he said to me, Dad, college is easier than high school. I said, what? He's studying political science. He's studying the political science of the Near East, and he's got some real experts there. And in the Middle East, as you can imagine, there were real vociferous disagreements of opinion. And the university, and he was a teaching assistant. This was his senior year. Eventually became a teaching assistant, but he was studying with one of the outstanding experts. I said, you can't tell me that the stuff you're learning in, I think Stillman was his name, in Stillman's course is easier than what's in high school. He said, oh no, he said, it's not the material's hard. He said, but here it comes, but all, this is a quote so I can say it, but all the bullshit is gone. I said, what does that mean? He said, you don't have to have your papers just so, and you're this just so, and that just so, and this just so, and writing and that, and homework every day, and this and that. And he said to me, which shocked me, I do better pulling all-nighters. This was the last kid in the world you expected to do that. Okay, how many people here are ready to admit that you did best in college pulling all-nighters and you still tell the kids, study a little bit on Tuesday, a little bit on Wednesday, a little bit on Thursday, a little bit on Friday? Why? Study the way it's best for you. Oh, I got one person with a smile admitting it in one hand. Why? If it works for you to pull all-nighters, what are you telling the kids not to? So in the end, what we do is we kind of prevent the kids from self-regulating. I'll be even harder on this point when we get to Freud. Well, till Freud. We prevent the kids from self-regulating. Know yourself. We don't really feel obligated to teach the kids strategies. Okay? Oh, I got a lot of faces of people looking, that reminds me of myself, right? We don't feel obligated, so we say, kid, go learn this, go do that, without teaching strategies of how to do it. And particularly for younger kids, it's important. I figure in this class, you got a college degree, you ought to know how to study more or less, right?
Is that the do as I say, not as I did?
Well, for me?
No, just in general, what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I don't teach you strategies, but I figure you have to know them. Yeah, that's right. You ought to be aware of the fact that it's your responsibility, particularly if it's younger kids or things that are new, right? Which is just about everything up through high school or whatever. That these things, it's important to teach kids. Often people, anybody want to do remedial work in college? What do they call them? In the community colleges, they call them, before you can get into algebra, you have to take a, they don't call it remedial though, they have a nice one, development class, I think. Okay? No. Before you can take pre-algebra, you have to show that you have the basic math. Yeah, the fundamentals of math. He calls it fundamentals of math. We had that, but we don't call it that. There's a nice name they call it. But basically, and a lot of those people don't really realize you've got to teach people strategies of how to do these basic things. I had one doctoral student in our department who did realize it when he studied psychology, right? So this becomes the key. But what we're going to look at next time, is the whole question of, we're going to put aside all these learning theories, and we're going to say maybe there's something, maybe we shouldn't treat people like machines. The first thing we're going to see is a theory that says we have to look at people as living organisms, as growing, changing, developing organisms. Right? That's what we're going to get from Piaget. And then we're going to see other people are going to talk like what's important is inside people. Okay? That really what you have to look at is how the environment affects what's inside people, or the interaction in the case of Piaget between what's inside and what's outside. Okay? Now most of you, we don't have too much time left, will say, oh, we are what we learn. Really? But all of you think either I have talent for math or music or I don't. Right? By the way, you're wrong, thinking that you don't. It's just, but we'll talk about that. So in the end, we're going to see people who say, you cannot use this machine mechanistic model for people. You have to look at how people develop. I know this has been a long introduction to what the course is mainly about, but this is, because the other stuff is so overwhelmed American education, it's important to look, it's important as an introduction. We're going to see people who are going to tell you, this is not the way it is. You have to treat people as though they're biological organisms. There's going to be furious debates about how a biological organism works. We're going to get Piaget and going to see Freud is going to say, "Phooey, it's not true." Okay, so, and in the end, these are people who are going to tell you emotions count. Although Bandura got close. I mean, Bandura told that, right? You have to look how people interact. You have to look what's innate to people. Are certain emotions innate? Are certain ideas innate? Are certain ways of approaching the environment innate? We're going to have to look at what's common to humanity, and we're going to have to treat people as I said before, growing, living, functioning organisms who are interacting with their environment, and, more important, who are determining for themselves what the nature, what the meaning of the environment is. Okay? I think again we got close to that with Ben-Dur, because Ben-Dur he's become increasingly moved toward developmental kinds of ideas. Okay, I'll see you next time. We're going to start on Piaget, a man whom I love, and we'll go from there. Okay.